Under the watchful eye of Ulysses S. Grant, the Transcontinental Railroad was completed in 1877. Not only was the Transcontinental Railroad completed in 1877, mere years after the Civil War of the 1860s, but it was also a symbol of massive westward expansion and the expansion of markets. The railroad was a mega-project that traversed the entire continent east to west. Under Grant, however, not only was the Transcontinental Railroad completed, but there was an economic depression known as the Panic of 1873 in, as evident, 1873. Due to this depression, many companies resorted to cutting their workers' wages, including, but not limited to, the Baltimore and Ohio Rail Company. The Baltimore and Ohio Rail Company had a massive part in the functioning of the Transcontinental Railroad, and, due to the wage decrease, many who worked on the railroad could not afford to eat. During this time, monopolies and monopsonies brought massive power to businesses and the wealthy, and allowed such to control members of Congress, similar to today. This era, known as the Gilded Age, experienced major labor issues. Such labor issues, in response to, also, the recent decrease of wages in the Baltimore and Ohio Rail Company, to what is referred to now as the Railroad Strike of 1877, or as the Great Strike of 1877. This strike saw more than 100,000 protesters, spanning the entire United States. The strike brought national attention to labor issues that were often only experienced in cities at the time, and ideas of labor reform grew. Executives of the time, including Rockefeller, Ford, and even executives from Baltimore and Ohio Rail Company, knew that the expanding ideas of labor reform would hurt their business. In response, executives influenced President Rutherford B. Hayes, the president following Ulysses S. Grant, to respond to the strike by deploying the National Guard. The National Guard, through loss of life, commerce, and property, quelled the strike. Though the National Guard may have succeeded in ending the railroad strike of 1877, they did not end the labor ideas of the movement. The year is 1886. Labor reform-minded anarchists, communists, and socialists meet at Haymarket Square in Chicago. They are here to protest for an 8-hour workday, partly inspired by the railroad strike of 1877. The protest went on for hours, as eventually the police tried to dispel the crowd. During the commotion, one member of the crowd, presumably with the aim of revolution, threw a bomb at the police. The bomb, thought to be a grenade, killed a few policemen and an unknown number of protesters. In response, the police opened fire. Many protesters died in what is now referred to as the Haymarket Affair or the Haymarket Massacre. After the event was reported in the news, the Knights of Labor, the country's largest labor union, was blamed, despite having no clear connection to the incident. This pushed the labor movement back many decades. This is the hinge point at which the labor movement could have progressed or regressed, and, in our case, reality, regression. Despite this, some politicians, namely Theodore Roosevelt, would later come into power in what is now called the Progressive Era. The Progressive Era sought to eliminate many of the issues that were present in the Gilded Age of the previous decades. Accomplishments of this era include the Department of Labor, an 8-hour workday, a 2-day weekend, a minimum wage, and more labor reforms that we still see to this day. While a success, however, if the government had been blamed instead of the Knights of Labor, it's not a stretch to say that the labor movement could have progressed instead. Perhaps, maybe, a socialist or even communist form of government could have formed in the United States, with labor protections beyond our wildest imagination. Global geopolitics for the coming century would change beyond our wildest beliefs. Only in our imaginations, however, is this the case. As for the bombermen in the Haymarket Massacre, they were never found nor identified, and the railroad strike of 1877, as well as the Haymarket Massacre, still have ripples to this day, despite being often glossed over in school for reasons that are evidently not accidental, due to the similar Gilded Age relationship today between capitalism and the government.